Everyone has different definitions of love. But what is love? Like, my parents have never explained it to me, but I can see that they love each other. But really, all I see is that it's just like a mutual feeling that is somewhat passionate, but other times not, because it can be a companionship type of relationship. I'm not sure. But from what I've seen with other people, it's a feeling in your heart, like your heart's pounding. You feel warm in your heart and it just feels nice. That's what I've gotten from my friends, which is not reliable whatsoever, okay? But it's just like a feeling in your heart that you feel, and your heart just starts beating rapidly. That's not a really good explanation, is it? I know that once you have your first love, you're supposed to know everything about love. You're supposed to know everything you need to know about your feelings and your emotions. But most of the time, that is not true. Our first love is just our first love. It's puppy love at most in some circumstances, okay? When you're younger, definitely a type of puppy love where you guys constantly want to be together, constantly want to be with each other, following around each other. I wouldn't categorize that as true love or whatever true love actually is. But whenever I try to ask someone, just anyone in general, what love is and how their first love came about, or when they started to, feel love for their first love, they can never give me a straight answer. If you know what something is, you should be able to explain it. A lot of people don't know the concept of love, so they can't explain it. Don't get me wrong, I love romance. I watch it, I read it all the time. I eat that shit up every single time. Yep. But I've always wondered, is it a biochemical response to intimacy or to reproduction, where we need to mate so that our species survives? Like, I've always thought about that. Isn't love just a byproduct? Like, it can't be its own emotion in a sense. That's kind of what I thought before I found the study. According to dictionary.com, love is an intense and deep affection for another person. Now, does that, I know that doesn't hit the mark for me. Personally, that's not how I categorize love. That is what I categorize as infatuation. Infatuation and love are two very different things. Because with infatuation, it's basically just dopamine, and you get addicted, and then you get obsessed with the person. Which, that's not good. But according to BetterHelp, true love is mutual growth, support, respect, and understanding. Basically, love is a lot like attention. It's fleeting, where you know that we don't always give our attention to something for a long period of time unless we find it interesting. That's kind of what love is. Unless you want to stay committed and grow with the person, which most people in this generation don't do. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it's true. There's a reason why there's called bops. That's just a Google definition though. And I did look through a couple of websites to make sure that I got everything right, okay? Now I'm looking at this study made by Harvard, or made by a Harvard scientist, and she basically explained what love is, and this was posted February 14th, 2017. If you want to check out the research paper or whatever the case is, you can just search out what is love and then go down to the Harvard page. So yes, it is confirmed by Harvard scientists, okay, because a Harvard scientist wrote this. Looking at the study from Harvard University, people in the older ages thought that it was just a physical sensation that came from the heart, where your heart is thumping really fast, you start getting sweaty, you start getting clammy, but those are natural responses when you run into an attractive person or someone that looks different. You stutter, you get nervous, all that, but it really is just all from my brain. It's more so your brain than your heart. Your heart is just a byproduct of it, I guess. Your heart is just a physiological response. That's it, and that's all. It's all up in your brain. Now, this splits up love into 3 categories: lust, attraction, and attachment. Lust is based on physical attraction and is our evolutionary base to reproduction. See, I think we all know what lust is. This is where testosterone and estrogen get involved, our reproductive hormones, and we mate and we create children. Which I'm pretty sure lust is actually a byproduct of reproduction. Attraction has to do with the reward center of our brain, which is where dopamine is located. If you don't know what dopamine is, it's a neurotransmitter that gives you a reward for doing hard stuff, or gives you a reward for just achieving stuff in general. Now, thanks to our hypothalamus, which is below the thalamus, it's I couldn't say exactly where it is, Maybe I could show you a picture or something. But we get a surge of dopamine and I can't pronounce it. I'll put it up there. It's basically adrenaline, or it's our adrenal hormone. So our fight or flight response, you know, and when you get your adrenaline pumping, you can do anything, that. Which actually causes the euphoric stage of the relationship, or what we like to call it, the honeymoon phase, which is usually the first 3 months to a year mark, where you don't look at any of their red flags, you don't get any icks from them, and you're just completely enthralled and infatuated with them. Until you get out of it and you see what type of person they actually are, and you think, oh man, this person is actually a piece of shit, maybe I should leave, type thing. But you stick through it because they could be a good person too, or not. Which you're completely devoted to them because they make you feel good because of all those chemicals in your brain. Yeah, just wait until you don't feel it anymore. Scientists have found through brain scans that the neurons in the reward pathway fire way faster when that person sees a person they are in love with compared to an old friend who gives them a neutral response. So basically, when you're in love, neurons in your brain, like right here in your reward pathway, just shoot like that. Actually faster than that, but they shoot pretty fast. And this can dull our dopamine receptors, but here's the thing. Our brain has plasticity where it can heal itself. Let your brain heal a little bit. And you know a good way to do that? Sleep. But attraction actually lowers serotonin levels, which controls our mood. Some people call it the happy hormone. You're more happy. Like, okay, but what's interesting is that people that have OCD also have lower serotonin, which explains the devotion and infatuation you have with that person in the early part of your relationship. So you're happy, but it's kind of... it's not actual happiness. It's like you have your rose-colored glasses on the entire time. Oh, and I almost forgot the most important thing. Attachment. Whether we like it or not, we do get attached, no matter what. If we spend enough time with another person, and we get to know them, and we get to know all the intricate parts of their life, whatever, right? We're gonna get attached to them. Especially if they live closer, and they are most likely not going to leave you, you get attached. Oxytocin is the hormone that creates our bonds in our brain. So whenever you get attached, you create a bond with that person. So this works for friendships, romantic encounters, parent-infant bonding, all of that. We get attached when some type of event happens with that person where you start thinking of them differently, or whenever you just think, oh, I'm never letting go of this person, ever. Now, I'm not saying this in a weird way, okay? Like when you see your baby for the first time after they're born, that's an event that makes you actually start loving them. Even if you loved them while they were in your womb, you're gonna love them even more when you see them outside. You're gonna be like, oh, my baby. And then your heart's just gonna swell with so much love. Unless you have postpartum depression. But you grow attached to that baby and you two form a bond together. But there's downsides to everything. For example, jealousy, envy, irritability, and a release of inhibitions, which inhibitions are the parts of your personality you keep locked in a box hoping they will never come out. But they do come out when you get drunk. So, see, love can turn you into a completely different person. Or at least a type of love does. Do you know why people get addicted to cocaine? It's because it signals dopamine for a longer period of time, which is our high. That's why people get addicted. They want that first hit over and over again. The thing is, the first time you take a drug or the first time you do something, it's always best, okay? Every other time you try and get that high again, you'll never get that high again. Why? Because your dopamine receptors are doled out. Now, attraction is associated with dopamine, which means that the same part of the brain is lit up. That's the reason why stalkers are a thing. They get irrational and let a false sense of love cloud their judgment because of their attraction to said person, which 9 times out of 10, that person doesn't know who they are. Because 9 times out of 10, this happens with celebrity cases. I digress. Let's use a different example, okay? And don't hate on me, but K-pop stans. They get overly possessive, jealous, and go borderline crazy when their bias gets into a relationship. Like, people are scared to date their bias because of their fans. It's crazy. Like, they put a normal human being on a podium and worship them like a god. Just because they're attractive. And just because they dance well. I mean, sure, idols get fame, attention, and money. But imagine going to a hotel room and bringing up your luggage, opening up your luggage, and seeing a stalker fan come out and take pictures of you, and take your underwear, and take all your clothes, and then run. Or a stalker fan in the window taking your pictures while you're getting changed. But what's crazy is that it's just all chemicals mixing up in your brain. That's why people do that. Because they're so attracted to the person. They feel like they love them when they actually don't love them because they don't know them. True love is when you actually know the person, but maybe they're desperate enough to find something external to fulfill themselves and get the reward. So they devote all their time to an idol that doesn't even know that they exist. But with a large amount of oxytocin released in some drugs like ecstasy, it causes dissociation when to the extreme. But it's still the feel-good hormone that, much like dopamine, can be either good or bad. Too much dopamine is not good for you. You can get schizophrenia from too much dopamine, and you get Parkinson's with too little, chemically speaking. But do not over-reward your reward system. You do need your reward system to do stuff, like get up and actually do activities, because you get a little feeling of reward when you do it. You're just like, oh my god, we all like praise. We all like getting rewarded. And that's just our little system. And oxytocin, well, is when we are bonded to somebody. Like K-pop stans, they release a lot of oxytocin when they see their bias, and they feel like they're bonding with them on a spiritual level when really they don't know anything about them. Now that I think about it, whenever I was infatuated with somebody, it felt like my brain would just turn off, which it actually does. It shuts off certain parts of your brain, making you not entirely yourself, so dumbing you down. Like maybe the certain parts of your brain that makes decisions and trust your judgment, it can lower or shut down that part of the brain, because you're not really judgmental when you're in love. You're just in love. So with the study I found using the Harvard one as my main source, I have found that love is all in your brain and perception. Sure, there is a biochemical explanation for this phenomena. Personally though, my definition of love is being comfortable enough to share almost everything about myself without feeling shameful, which has to do a lot with communication and a secure attachment style. But your definition might be different depending on your attachment style and the way you grew up and your personality type. But most of the time, it's a feeling of comfort. From what I've seen, when you're out of the overly passionate phase where you're all over each other and you can't get enough of them. Some closing thoughts though. Whenever I think of what love is, like I was searching up videos of this too, okay? It was people all over each other. See, that's not love to me. That is just lust. You gotta look at someone's outside and their inside to love them, because you can't love somebody when you only take into account their physical appearance, and you can't love somebody when you only take into account their personality or anything like that. Because a lot of people these days go for personality over looks, which in my opinion, I think you should go for personality and looks, whatever your preference is. That is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that, and stay tuned for more. Bye-bye.